Hi everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight at this Fertility Network Trying to Conceive webinar. Now we're going to hear about Reproflexology and how it can balance the mind and body when on a fertility journey. Now don't worry if you're not sure what that really means, because all will be revealed tonight by our expert panelist Amy Simpson. Hi Amy.
Hi Heather.
How are you tonight?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me on to the webinar.
Oh, it's lovely to have you. I can't wait to hear about this reproflexology. I can't,
Bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
Well, it is. It is. I was a wee bit nervous about saying that, but hey ho, I managed it. So there we go. Now, just before I hand you over to Amy tonight, you will need to know how to ask questions. Now, please feel free, as Amy's doing her presentation, to submit questions as we go along, but we won't come back to them until she's actually finished doing her whole presentation. When you do that, make sure that you click on the anonymous function, because this just makes sure that any personal data that you have won't be disclosed at all, because this recording will be watched by other people later too. Okay, so if you want to submit a question, you just go down to the bottom of your screen and a toolbar should appear that says Q&A. Click on Q&A and then you can type in. Remember to click that anonymous function though. Okay, right, I am going to leave you in Amy's capable hands, so I'm going to mute myself and disappear. Have fun, Amy.
Thank you very much. So what I'll do is I'll just keep fingers crossed that technology works here, and I'll go in to share my screen with you. So I'm hoping, Heather, can you just give me a quick okay if you can see my screen and everything looks okay?
It looks fantastic.
Fab, fab, thank you. So tonight I want to tell you a little bit more about reproflexology and how it can facilitate that calmness when you're trying to conceive. So I thought it might be helpful. Come on, it's not going to move. Oops, wait a minute, sorry, it's decided to pause on me. There we go. The joys of technology. I thought it might be helpful just to tell you a little bit more about who I am and a bit about my background. I'm a registered occupational therapist, and I've been practicing for the last 20 years now. Trained in clinical reflexology 15 years ago, and then specialised in reproductive pathology 3 years ago. And all the work that I do, I worked in the NHS for 16 years, and then left to open my own practice. And I specialise now in women's health, particularly supporting kind of hormonal and reproductive health. And really my kind of aim is just to support women to be happy, healthy and calm, because I think in the world that we live in just now, you know, if we can have any of those, that's a real bonus. So that's a little bit about me. I'm not sure if people know very much about reflexology, but before I talk about reproflexology, I wanted just to kind of give you some general information about reflexology. So reflexology very much is a practice that we focus on traditionally working on the feet. So there's a belief in reflexology that all of our organs and systems are mapped out over the feet. This is a kind of rough guide that I hope you can see at the moment. It's pretty accurate. It's a very pretty guide, so there's some points that are not specifically accurate, but it gives you a right kind of gives you a bit of an idea as to where everything is. So as a reflexologist, we very much aim to try and return balance to the body, because each and every one of us, the day-to-day life causes us to hold lots of stress in different parts of the body, and when we can hold stress in that part of the body, the ability for that organ or that system to function is compromised. So we're trying to always return a sense of balance to the body. In reproflexology, we are absolutely kind of focused in on our hormonal systems, our endocrine system, and our reproductive organs. So it kind of, Whereas traditional reflexology, we're looking to bring a sense of balance predominantly. With reproflexology, for a female, we're very much working, if we're trying to conceive naturally, we would work with the natural cycle. So that doesn't always mean about bringing balance. That sometimes means that we are looking to stimulate different reproductive organs, stimulate some hormone production, or actually sometimes if the body's working too hard, we're looking to sedate certain parts of that kind of reproductive system. Equally for men, we're kind of looking to really enhance our sperm kind of health and development. So we're kind of working, sperm roughly takes about kind of 12 weeks to mature and develop. So we're really working over that kind of period of time to make sure that we're really enhancing the body's ability to support that kind of sperm health and maturity. So if I move on, probably a slide that most people are familiar with. So if I focus on kind of female like female reproductive health at the moment, if ladies come to me and they're specifically looking either to, maybe they're in that preparation phase of maybe just starting to try and think about conception, but they're looking to regulate their periods, make sure that their body and their mind is in the best health, then we will look at working alongside their natural cycle. So each week we tend to kind of split, we try and kind of look at the 4 stages of the cycle and predominantly work with what the body's naturally trying to do in those different parts of the cycle. So at the very beginning, during like the bleed, we're just looking to kind of calm everything down, balance the body. But when we come into the follicular phase, you know, as we're approaching ovulation, we're really looking to stimulate the body. Particularly, there's certain protocols that I also use if I'm working with ladies who maybe have polycystic ovarian syndrome or maybe endometriosis, because certainly with PCOS, because periods can be very irregular and sometimes people are not ovulating, we're really looking to support the body to remind it almost of that natural cycle and to really make sure we're supporting ovulation. With endometriosis, because there is such a challenge with pain and heavy bleeding, towards the end of the cycle we're looking at actually sedating some of the body so that we can reduce a bit of the pain that's there. So that would be very much if we're working towards enhancing a natural cycle. When couples come to see me and they're in the process of having assisted conception, we kind of completely ignore the natural cycle and now move on to looking at what the fertility drugs are trying to do. And my role as a reproflexologist at that point is to really enhance what the drugs are trying to do, so to make the body as receptive as it can be. So we're very much working with whatever that fertility drug is trying to do. And that's sometimes where I think it can be, I would often advise if you are having treatment is just to make sure that you ask your practitioner if they're aware of how to follow kind of different protocols at different points in your treatment cycle. So if I move on, what I hope to do tonight is just to show you some points that actually, so you might be able to kind of explore in your own feet, just to have a little feel around and see, and to actually understand where the points are. So I have a very helpful client who was willing that I could take pictures of her feet. So I want to just show you. So on this image here, where you can see the little coloured dot that I've got on the outside of the ankle, is roughly where the ovary reflex point is. Now, what we tend to do is, because everybody's bodies are slightly different, we have to, they're roughly in that area, but it's not like, we can't see that every single person's ovary will be in exactly that place, because they're not. Our bodies are all very different. So it's roughly around in that area. And we would use very much focus on this point at the beginning of the cycle to look at really supporting kind of egg development, but also following ovulation, because we're looking for the corpus luteal mass. So once we've ovulated and the egg has been released from the follicle, where it is the corpus luteal mass that produces progesterone. So sometimes if I can see, like, we know from the client that I'm working with their cycle that sometimes their progesterone can be a little bit low towards the end of their cycle. Actually working on this point, I also show people, I hope you can see, so your ovary point, if I show you myself on my hand here, so your ovary point, when you work down the outside of the hand, if you can follow the outside of your hand down, you'll come to the bumpy bit on the wrist. And if you come round onto the side, somewhere in around there, you'll find there's a little tiny tip. And this is our ovary point. So sometimes I will teach clients how to self-stimulate their ovary point. So they might, so the lovely thing about that is because the reflex points are also mapped out over the hands, it means that in between times when I see clients, I can actually get them to do some self-stimulation. And that would be particularly towards the end of the cycle. If I then move on to the next point, yeah. So here we have, well, now we're on the inside of the ankle. So in the inside of the ankle, we have our uterus reflex point. And the uterus, we are all, at the beginning of every session, we do a repro kind of assessment just to check in with where we are in the cycle. Are the organs, like the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, and the uterus, do they feel like how, do they feel in the way that we would expect them to based on where we are in the cycle? So where this point is here, and this can be a really, really interesting point because sometimes actually a lot of my clients will actually see some, like sometimes towards the end of their cycle, this point can actually be quite tender. It's a point that you actually might notice when you touch this point. You can actually feel the uterus point as the endometrium starts to thicken towards the end of the cycle. You can actually feel a plumpness in this area, and it's when clients do fall pregnant. Actually, this is a lovely point that we watch throughout as their pregnancy continues, because as their uterus grows, this little point in the foot actually you'll start to see it swell as well. For clients that maybe have very, very heavy bleeds or have a lot of, maybe my clients who have endometriosis, this is often a point though I will actually show them to use to help them manage some of the pain and discomfort they can have. And just to give you an idea what it is, it's a wee bit more difficult for me to show you. So if the ovary was on the outside, this point is on the inside. So if you follow down the thumb, you'll come onto the wrist point, and again there's just like a little dip. So just if you have a little feel around, you'll feel your uterus point in there. So what can be a really nice thing to do sometimes, just to kind of balance all of that kind of like a hormonal balance, is to put our thumb on the ovary point. So on the outside, finding that little dip there, the middle finger, just the pad of the middle finger onto the uterus point, and just holding very, very lightly, very gently. And what we look to do is just to balance energetically. So you can hold it just until we feel a little pulse under both sides. And sometimes it happens quicker than others. The other thing that we'll sometimes do is very gently, so your fallopian tubes are over the top here, or they're over around the top of the ankle. So something that we also do is just very, very gently just sweep after ovulation, just sweep over the fallopian tubes, always moving from the ovary round onto the uterus point. Okay. So when I wanted to talk to you about reproflexology, I wanted to talk about, yes, how it works specifically with kind of really working on the reproductive organs, but I also wanted to talk about how kind of we bring in that element of really bringing a sense of calmness into the whole body and into the mind. And I love this, I often remind people of this, that, you know, I think often the answer when we ask people, how are you? The first word for a lot of us that rolls off the tongue is fine. And I always say, like, fine really does stand for freaking out, insecure, nervous, and either emotional or exhausted. And often when we say it, and when we say it without even thinking, actually it tends to mean that we're at least one of them, if not all of them at the same time. So there's a couple of points that I wanted to show you just about appreciating that when we're trying to conceive, there is so much stress. It's a bit of it's a complete emotional roller coaster. So anything that we can do just to help kind of center and ground ourselves and to bring in that sense of calmness is really, really important. So if I bring you back onto the feet, so there's a point that we always use at the beginning and at the end of any reflexology, and it's the solar plexus point. And the solar plexus is the seat of our emotions. So our solar plexus is often the point that people are very aware of. It's that knot you get in your stomach, that real tightness that you can feel. So it's on the feet, it's just located just underneath the balls of the feet, but actually it's a lovely point you can use in your hand. So if you cup your hand and just you take the thumb and go right into the center point, and when on days when we're just when it's maybe just a bit more difficult, we're just feeling a bit overwhelmed, it's a little bit anxious or a bit worried, or it's just a difficult day, holding this point, so just pressing into this point for a count of 5, and then letting it go and taking 3 nice big deep breaths. And as you breathe in, pressing into this point, and as you breathe out, just letting it go. And the thing I love about this point, and I like showing this point to all of my clients, is it's a great point you can use if you're going to any appointments, if you're going for any treatment, because it's a really discreet point. Nobody knows you're doing it. You can do it anywhere. If you know, on the difficult days, maybe somebody else has shared their good news, and you're happy for them, but it feels like somebody's ripped your heart out, then this is a lovely point just to almost just kind of reset, just find a moment to take a breath. So the solar plexus point in your hand is a lovely little point to use. And then when I move on, so if I go back to often I find when stress and when we're doing anything that's really important, our minds can go into overdrive, so it can disrupt our sleep. And I'm quite sure that, you know, everybody that's listening tonight will have read lots of things about the things that we can do that really support our health, and that in turn supports our kind of reproductive health. And sleep as such, I think is one of the foundational things for everybody. But obviously when we're going through times that are a bit more stressful, our sleep can be one of the first things that goes. So the point that I've got on this picture here, right at the top of the head, is the big toe represents the head, and right on the top is the brain. So sometimes when we are either find that we just have, our mind is so busy, we're just constantly stuck in that loop of overthinking, or maybe sleep has become a bit elusive, we're not sleeping well, or either we're kind of prone to migraines or to tension headaches, just rubbing over the top of the big toe. You can also use it on the pad of the thumb. So the pad of the thumb is also represents the head. So just roll in right on the top of the thumb, and just using the pad of your index finger to roll. And you would do it on both sides. And it can be nice just if you notice that maybe just as calming the body down just in preparing for sleep. And then I wanted to show, so often when our stress is high, our energy is really, really high up in our head. So when we look at the foot here, this represents the point at the top is up, and the toe is up at the top of the neck, and the point down here is right down at the base of the spine. So the spine runs at the side of the foot. And this can be a lovely point to calm the energy back down. So we tend to sweep from the top point down to the bottom over the bone, just to calm all of that, bring the energy down, just to really ground our energy, to feel safe, secure, and just to get out of our heads. It's also so that's a lovely calming way. The other way I often use as well is sometimes to increase libido, but we would move the other way. So you move up the way, so you would sweep up the way. So that can be a really nice to lift the energy. And another point I think is really important for our reproductive health or general health, and also for calming the body, is the digestive system. I think it's often something we overlook. But having a really good gut health and having a healthy digestive kind of system is really important, because our digestive system, if we've got a lot of stress, the digestive system is also kind of scooping up all that excess hormone in the body and then eliminating it from the body. And if we find that our digestive system gets a bit sluggish, then we have all of those old hormones just lurking around in the body and are still interacting in the body. So the heel of the foot links to the digestive system, and we in reflexology we use a technique called finger walking. So it's literally just that we press and move. So actually working over the heel of the foot, working horizontally, vertically, and diagonally. But we can also work on the heel of the hand, and that can be quite a nice point because it's very uncomfortable for our digestive system. It just makes us feel a bit rubbish. So I'm just checking. Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to do is I like to teach all of my clients just really simple breathing techniques, because I think sometimes we can underestimate how, like, when we're in our day-to-day life, we very rarely take time to really breathe properly, just take a nice big deep breath. We tend to breathe really high up in the chest. So actually sometimes just giving ourselves permission just to take a moment for ourselves and just to breathe can be so important. So I wanted just to talk you through a very simple little breathing space. So hopefully you're in a place just now that you can join in. If you are, all I want you to do is I want you to pop everything down. So if you've got a cup, pop it down. If you can, putting your feet flat on the floor and just placing your hands just resting in the lap. And if it's okay and you're comfortable doing so, just gently closing the eyes. Or if you don't want to close the eyes, just lowering the gaze. And just taking a moment just to notice where the head is. So we've spoken about a couple of different things. So there might be lots of thoughts buzzing around in the mind, lots of distractions. So just noticing in this moment where the mind wants to go. But beginning to see if you can practice non-attachment, so we can see all the distraction, but beginning to visualize it almost like clouds on a windy sky. So we can see them, but we choose just to let it pass on by. And then maybe just dropping down into feelings and noticing any emotions that are here right now. Remembering there's no good or bad emotions. All emotions are welcome. And just seeing if we can give permission to anything that's here just to be here right now. And then dropping into the physical body. Maybe beginning to notice and be aware of any tension that we're holding, either over the top of the head or the back of the head. And seeing if we can allow the scalp just to soften. Bringing the awareness then into the face and allowing the muscles of the face to begin to relax. So allowing the forehead to be smooth and soft, the eyebrows to be heavy, allowing the eyes just to rest gently behind the eyelids, the cheeks to soften, the jaw to be heavy, unclenching the teeth and just allowing the tongue to settle in the mouth. So the whole face becomes expressionless. And then just moving the awareness down into the neck and the throat. Maybe choosing just to swallow to allow the throat to relax. And then bringing the awareness into the shoulders and noticing if throughout the day the shoulders have gradually crept up towards the ears. And if they have, seeing if we can allow them just to drop. Beginning to imagine that any of the tension, anything we've been carrying around with us, just slowly begins to roll off the end of the shoulders. And as it does, our shoulders just become heavier and heavier. Allowing that feeling of heaviness just to slowly move down through the arms, from the tops of the arms down to the elbows, elbows to forearms, forearms to wrists, into the hands and all of the fingers. And just allowing the arms to rest gently at the side of the body. Bringing the awareness then into the back and slowly beginning to walk that awareness down the spine. Giving permission to the large and the small muscles of the back to begin to soften. Allowing the shoulder blades to melt down the back. The middle of the back to release. And the lower back just to let go of any tension. until we bring that awareness all the way down into the hips, the pelvis, the buttocks. And just allowing the hips to be heavy, allowing them to sink into the chair, allowing the buttocks to soften, and then slowly beginning to move the awareness down through the legs. So down through the thighs, down into the knees, the calves, the shins, and all the way down into the feet. So we're just allowing the feet to be soft and relaxed. And then bringing the awareness up into the abdomen and the chest, inviting a softness in and around the belly. Just seeing if we can begin to notice that subtle movement, the rise and fall of the belly. So noticing how it gently rises with the in-breath and then it falls with the out-breath. So we're not trying to force it in any way, we're just beginning to notice how the body wants to breathe. Breathing in and breathing out. And then moving that awareness up into the chest, allowing the muscles of the chest to be soft. And just beginning to notice how the rib cage expands and relaxes. And even though we know we could choose to speed the breath up or to slow it down, we just simply allow in this moment the body to do whatever it wants, to breathe in whatever way it wants, knowing there's no right or wrong way. Just focusing in on that subtle movement, the rise and fall as we breathe in and we breathe out. And just really using this breath as just for a moment, just to settle the body. Just using the in-breath as an invitation to bring a sense of calm and stillness into the body. And the out-breath just to be a release. The opportunity and the invitation to let go of anything that's no longer serving us. Breathing in and breathing out. And then just bringing the awareness back into the body. Being aware of the whole body from the top of the head to the tips of the toes. Being aware of the breath moving through the body. Slowly beginning to invite some small movements, moving the fingers, moving the toes. And whenever you're ready, just gently blinking the eyes open. So I hope just showing you just how simple it can be sometimes just to take a breathing space. It's lovely if you do have a moment and you can close your eyes. We don't always have that opportunity, but if we can even just checking in very quickly with how we're feeling, noticing any emotions that are here, giving them permission to be here, because all emotions are here for a reason. Even the ones we don't like, even the ones that are really difficult. And just taking a breath, just really grounding yourself, feeling your bottom in the chair, feeling your feet on the floor, letting the shoulders drop, letting the jaw release, and just taking a breath. So I hope that was helpful, just to give you a quick introduction to Reproflexology. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to show you again any points if you maybe want me to go back over other points. Please feel free to link with me in whatever way you want. If I can give you any more information, that would be great. So I hope that's okay.
Hi Amy, thank you for that. I'm feeling very, very calm now.
Oh, that's good. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Is that okay?
That's lovely. That's what I was just about to ask.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, so that was a lovely feeling. So would you recommend grounding yourself like that maybe 10-15 minutes every day when you get home from work, trying to fit it into your routine? Or
I think if you can fit it into your routine, it really makes a difference. So, and that's different for everybody. Sometimes people like it in the morning, so almost it depends what your day is going to be like. It kind of sets you up for the day. It gives you that moment just to catch a breath, because we tend to life is busy and we're all on this hamster wheel and we're just go all the time. And sometimes we actually just forget just to take a moment, just take a breath. So it can be really nice in the morning. It can be really nice. A breathing space can be a lovely thing to do as well. I quite often I'll do it in my car. if I'm going from one place to the other, almost to leave whatever was happening there, to kind of catch a breath, notice how I'm feeling, to then go somewhere else. Or again, it can be nice to do at the end of the day, because sometimes, you know, it might have been a difficult day and there's lots of things buzzing around your head, and just to kind of, I suppose, give them permission to be there and just to check in with how we're feeling. Because sometimes I think we can all we can feel the difficult stuff, but it's hard. The difficult emotions are really hard to feel, and we have a tendency, we all do it, we have a tendency that we wrap them up and we push them somewhere because we just don't want to feel it. And sometimes that just makes them, well, there's a saying that we say that what we resist persists. So sometimes what we do, I always like to think of them a wee bit like a jack in the box. So we've shut the lid, but we know it's going to reappear. And it often then finds a way to come at the times that we don't want it to. Maybe at the time when somebody's actually been really nice to us, and it's like, that's the moment where it just, because it needs a way out.
So by doing that grounding and sitting and breathing and relaxing and feeling every part of your body, some of them feeling heavy, but just being aware of them all, you're actually acknowledging those feelings, you know, the uncomfortable feelings that you've had during the day. So what you're actually doing is acknowledging them, but you're also kind of creating a barrier to help you cope with the rest of the day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's sometimes remembering that emotions ebb and flow. Everything, so we can have moments where things feel really good and we feel calm and we feel relaxed, and then we can go into other moments where all of a sudden we feel but they will come and they will go. So it's just about allowing them to come and go.
Okay, please do feel free to submit some questions that you have. Now, there was one question that was sent to me anonymously by email today. And it was somebody who was saying they've been on a trying to conceive journey for 4 years now, Amy. But unfortunately, their daily work life means that they work in a clinical setting in the paediatrics. So they're obviously in constant contact with other children. So it can be very hard for them to almost forget about their trying to conceive journey, because they do spend so much time with other people's children. I wonder if this breathing technique is something that they would be able to do at work, or even what you showed us with the solar plexus in the hand.
Yeah, so the solar, I think that's a really, really difficult one, because we're drawn to jobs because of, so generally if we're working with children, we're drawn to jobs because we love working, we love being around children. They're such a big part of who we are, so that must be very, very difficult, and some days it'll be more difficult than others. But yes, I think just maybe using a breathing space, just giving yourself permission for it to be difficult more difficult on some days, using that little solar plexus point. There's another point here, which is if just in the web space of the thumb. So if we pinch on either side, this is our adrenal gland. So when those emotions are high, when the difficult emotions are high, we go into that fight or flight response in the body. So everything's working really hard, and we feel all of that. You know, we feel our heart racing, and it's just such a horrible feeling. So what we can do is we can use the solar plexus point, but we can also use this adrenal point. And it's just in that kind of V shape in the web of the thumb. And we're pinching on either side. And again, just holding for a nice slow count of 5. And we would do it on both sides, because what we're just helping the body to do is the body recognises, you know, this, our thought triggers that emotion, and then the body goes into that full response. So all we're doing is helping the body just to soothe the body slightly, just to make it a bit easier for us to come out of it. But I do think it's also just about giving ourselves permission, just for it. It's okay that it's okay not to be okay all the time.
And of course, these can be used not only for the emotional challenges that we face when you're on a fertility journey, but also some of the physical challenges that you face, you know, during an IVF cycle. For instance, there are some days where, you know, it's physically challenging to cope with, you know, the hormones you have to take, and also I'm thinking about maybe egg collection day, etc. So again, that could be really useful for that.
I mean, I do, like, I've had a lot of clients who've maybe said to me that when they've gone in for egg collection, or they've just been waiting to go in for an appointment, and they've said, actually, I hadn't appreciated how just using these simple points, how it could just, it takes the it doesn't take all of that emotion completely away. It just takes the edge off it, just so in that moment you actually feel like I can breathe, I can take a breath. Yeah, so and what I do love about them is they're quite discreet. Nobody notices that we're doing them, so we can do them anywhere.
Absolutely. Now there are a few questions, so I'll just have a wee look. Okay. First of all, a nice wee comment. It's always nice to get praise. Thank you, Amy. That was great. Really interesting. You mentioned that reproflexology can also be useful for men. Do you know if therapists tend to provide therapy for both? And I know that you do, don't you, Amy? We've got unexplained infertility, so presume it might be helpful for us both.
Ideally, I prefer, if I can, to work with both partners. No, it's not. Sometimes couples come together. Sometimes they come separately, and that's completely up to them. Sometimes people actually really enjoy that time to come and relax together, and to actually feel like they're doing. This is part of their how they're preparing their bodies and actually kind of really supporting the body. But sometimes partners want to come separately because it's also their time when they come into a space and they can be honest about how they're feeling. And just because I think in any relationship where sometimes we tell the people that we love how we're feeling, or we hide a lot of our, because we don't want to worry them. So sometimes, but yes, it does. Reproflexology works with both female and male fertility. Ideally, similar to lots of other therapies, you know, we want to, if possible, we want to work with couples in that prior to kind of going into treatment, because you're really preparing the body and the mind.
Absolutely. So you're preparing yourself to have that fertility calmness in what we all know is a really intense time.
Yep. And I suppose there's the reason why I think, I mean, obviously from my occupational therapy background, I really understand how stress impacts on the body. And I think when we then look at kind of from a fertility and reproductive health, when our cortisol, when that stress hormone is so high in the body, it is playing havoc with our reproductive hormones. You know, it's taken the resource in the body, and cortisol, because we are hardwired for survival, the body will always prioritize the production of cortisol over our estrogen, over our progesterone, over testosterone. So anything that we can do that just helps the body to find that balance and to come out of that stress response can make a real difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, another question. What time of our cycle should we use the point on our wrist to stimulate the ovaries? So which day in the cycle that you showed us?
So stimulate the ovary, it kind of, so you can use it at different points in the cycle. You can use the point to stimulate the ovary in the roundabout. So if we said that people have a typical kind of 28 kind of day-ish cycle, so around that second week of your cycle as you're approaching ovulation. Okay, so you can use it to really, so it's on the outside, and you're working to stimulate. So you would use that in the second week of your cycle, but it's also a really nice one to use. You can use it. I like to know what's going on in people's bodies first before I would say to them, definitely do it, because sometimes your ovaries are working hard enough as they is and they don't actually need any more stimulation. But if I work with clients and I reckon, you know, actually that's a really nice point and I want them just to keep their progesterone nice and high, I'll get them to do it after ovulation as well. But it's everybody's bodies are different. Everybody's cycles are doing something different. So not everybody needs it, but yeah. So it can be, but that is certainly the points that we would use. A lovely one that anybody can do, and it's regardless of what your cycle is doing, is just to balance it. So just to have that connection between the ovary. So the ovary on the outside here, so just finding that little bumpy bit on the wrist coming round, putting your thumb there, using the pad of the middle finger, and we're coming down past the thumb into there. And just to very, very, very gently, because these are tiny, tiny organs, just to very gently hold there. And hold it until you feel like just a very, very tight, tiny pulse between. And it's just, we're just really checking in with the body, and we're just creating that lovely energetic connection. And we can use that at any point. With the kind of self-stimulation, what I would say, sometimes you don't need it. Sometimes your body's actually working, it's working flat out. So we almost don't want to, make it work even harder. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, it does. Okay, now if we were interested in trying to find a reproflexologist locally,
Yep.
Is there any specific accreditation that we'd need to look for that's widely recognised as somebody that's undergone a lot of training in it?
So there is there's the Association of Reproductive Reflexologists. They do have a website. Sadly, at the moment their website is under construction. But I would look for somebody who has reproflexology training. And I would also look for somebody, it's similar to anything, I think, when you go for any, is check your practitioner's got insurance, and check that they're registered with an accredited body. So maybe something like the Federation of International Therapists, Holistic Therapists, or I'm registered with Association of Reflexologists and Association of Reproductive Reflexologists. But I would just ask your therapist, because not everybody people can be registered and part of a regulatory body, but they don't always want to be on directory. So I would ask. And often the other thing is, when you go into a clinic or a treatment room, really people should have maybe their insurance or their registration certificates visible, so that you can check that. But any reflexologist would be more than happy to tell you what they're like, who they're registered with, and what to make sure they're insured.
So that was the AR, yeah?
Sorry?
Sorry. That was the AR and the ARR, yeah?
So it's the AOR, so the Association of Reflexologists, so that comes up as AOR, and then you've got the ARR, so the Association of Reproductive Reflexologists.
Lovely, thank you. Yeah. Okay, now there's
a
couple more questions. Sorry, did you have something else to say?
All I was going to say is, so check out, but one of the biggest things I think is, it's for therapists, it's a real privilege when clients come to invite us into part of their journey. And I think you are sharing really personal information with somebody, so it's the connection with the person that really, really matters. Have that relationship. Yeah. Somebody that you trust.
Absolutely. And I think as well, it's somebody that you feel helps you to relax. If you feel nervous being with someone, you're probably not going to relax, are you? So it's definitely being with somebody that you feel a calmness from. And yeah, I think that's really important. And that could be different types of people for everyone.
Absolutely. Very personal.
It is, yeah. So do you think it is okay to have reproflexology and acupuncture in conjunction with one another? We're due to go into a second cycle of treatment after 2 failed rounds. Sorry to hear that. And I am booked in as a female to try acupuncture to help me to relax a little, but would be really keen to try reproflexology too.
I think, yes, I think it's absolutely fine. I work very closely with an acupuncturist as well. I think it's really important just to tell your acupuncturist and your reflexologist, because what we would do is then work in a very integrated way. So we would make sure that actually how we're working works together to give you the absolute best outcome.
And I imagine
Yes.
that you would both ask quite similar questions as well.
We would, and certainly if it's myself, if it's an acupuncturist who's local to me, then I would, with the couple's permission, if like maybe link with that acupuncturist so that we could almost create a treatment plan together, so we know exactly how we're going to work. Because there are certain times that that acupuncture absolutely is the best treatment, and then there's certain times where reflexology might be so actually when we can work together, it's just they're hugely complementary to each other.
And it's a bespoke patient plan, so
Absolutely.
yeah, that's wonderful. Okay. Another lovely comment. Thank you, Amy, for a great presentation, especially for the stress point tips. I am having thyroid issues and have recently been diagnosed with Graves' disease, which has caused me to have to put TTC on hold for now. I started going for reflexology, but is there any areas I could focus on between sessions?
So what I would do, I would use the stress points between, because actually when we're looking at our thyroid function, our thyroid is part of our endocrine system, so all the hormones are all connected. So anything that we can do to reduce the amount of stress that's on that thyroid gland. So I think it's really, I don't want to give specific when I don't know exactly the details, but I would focus then on the stress points. So I would maybe look at the top of the head, just relaxing the mind, because it sounds like that must be very difficult if there's other things that have taken over and you've had to put things on hold for a little while. So just maybe helping, seeing anything you can do to improve your sleep, anything you can do just to help calm the body. So using that solar plexus point, maybe even using the adrenal point just to hold, spell that a little bit here, and just, yeah, on the tops of the thumbs. But I would use the stress points. And sleep, I think we underestimate how healing sleep is and how restorative it is.
Absolutely. The body really recovers when you're in sleep, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, right, I think we'll do one more question and then we
Okay.
might have to wrap this up. I'm just going to go for the one at the bottom, which says, can a reflexologist tell when a baby is growing in the womb? That's an interesting question, isn't it?
So it's a really, so we sometimes you don't. So what I would say is that there's sometimes a few factors that we can look at. We can look at, particularly people are gathering other information. So we can, and we cannot say for definite, but sometimes what it shows is if the body starts to show us signs that we think it feels like the body's doing everything that we want it to do.
Okay.
But I would, if I ever felt, when there's been a couple of occasions where I've definitely thought, okay, but I would never say to somebody, because unfortunately lots of things can happen, and it's just that all I can feel in the body is the body feels in a way that it's doing exactly what we want. So it feels like there's a lovely nice circulation around the uterus point.
Okay, and that was going to be my next question. I was going to put you on the spot and say,
right, okay,
that
yeah.
gives you the dilemma of, do you tell
Never,
the patient?
never.
No, absolutely. Okay. There were a few other questions on there. So, Amy, you did put your details up, didn't you? And I believe we discussed this before, didn't we? That if anybody wanted to contact you, they could drop you a wee
Drop me an email, yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Do you want to remind people of your email address again?
Yeah, it's a big long one.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I should really have thought about this, but it's AS. So for Amy Simpson, it's AS, breathe, believe, achieve at gmail.com.
Okay. And if anybody didn't get that, they can always contact me and I can forward it on to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I'll give you mine in a moment, so don't worry. If you can't remember what mine is, I'm just about to share it with you. Okay, Amy, I've just got a few bits of housekeeping that I have to do.
Okay.
But I think that's all there is time for us to do tonight. Now, there is a wealth of information on our Trying to Conceive, for our Trying to Conceive community on our website. There's fact sheets about medical investigations, fertility treatments, lots of fertility FAQs, etc. So if you want to have a look at that, it might be useful for many of you, and that's www.fertilitynetworkuk.org. We do hope to have the recording of this webinar tonight available on our website in about 2 weeks' time. I will send out a message on social media whenever that's ready to let you know that it's there. If you would like to receive reminders to register for future webinars, please email me, heather@fertilitynetworkscotland.org. Only one reminder will be sent per webinar, and your details will be stored for the duration of the 2020 series, but of course can be removed at any time on request by you by an email to the same address. We won't share your details with any other organisation at all. I'd like to say one more thanks and goodbye to Amy. I really believe, Amy, that many people will feel much calmer on their fertility journey tonight after listening to all of this. I really think that it will facilitate calmness in their lives. So thank you so much for your time in preparing that fantastic presentation, and also just being so patient with the questions, etc. Thank you.
Thank you very much for asking me.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you and preparing this as well, I have to say. So it's time to say one more good night to Amy and one more thank you, Amy, and also good night to everyone else watching. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.